Hi there everybody, my name is Aubrey and I'm here to talk about what life is like 6 months post-op for metastatic thyroid cancer. I know it's taken me a long time to make this video. It has been such a wild year. I'm really grateful to have the opportunity to actually sit down and do this because I know a lot of you guys have been reaching out to me in previous installations of this project I have, asking questions, checking in on me. I really appreciate that. I hope that this can provide a little bit of clarification as to at least my personal experience with this process and maybe alleviate some of your personal stress as you're going through and preparing for this path through cancer. It has been the weirdest experience. This last year has been a lot of doctor's appointments, a lot of visits, a lot of blood taking, a lot of scans, and I am very fortunate that everything has been going as well as it has been. Let's start with the positives first, shall we? I am very happy to be post-op and post-radiation. As of right now, I don't need any further surgery. It is still only 6 months. You usually wait quite a little bit longer in order to figure out if you need to go back in or if you need additional radiation treatments. But from what I've done so far, it's looking okay. My thyroid levels themselves are not quite right yet. Still working with my doctor on trying to figure out what the proper dose is for me at the moment. And I think that's a bit of a negative is it takes a while for the change in medication to really show any effects. And as a result, I do feel like it's a little trial and error-y. I'm doing something, waiting 4 to 6 weeks, still not feeling great, needing to go in, change it again. And it does feel like, you know, a very not fun game, but it's a part of the process and I'm trying my best to take it in stride because it's just the way it's got to be, right? So for those of you guys who are worried about taking medication every day, because I was one of those people, it's not too bad. I take it every day at 7 o'clock before I eat anything or have any coffee, which is very normal. I've talked to a lot of other people who do the same thing. Some people do it slightly differently, some people do it at night, but for me it's been working to wake up every morning at the same time and do the same process. I'm very much a habits kind of person anyway, so it works out well. My weight is largely the same. I haven't moved up or down. Some people are very, very nervous about losing or gaining weight after this surgery. I can say that it's not guaranteed that you will go either way, right? I have not experienced any change in that department. Regarding hair loss, I did have some after my surgery and for a little bit until my hormones got better regulated. It was not super noticeable. More so in the shower, I would feel that hair was coming out in my fingers in a way that like didn't happen before. So that was scary, but eventually it kind of normalized as well, and I just have been going about my business. And I think the other thing that I didn't realize was super important and I didn't actually know was related to the cancer was that I used to have a lot of swelling in my neck, like a lot. For many years, I was really insecure about my neck, and I know that I probably didn't need to be, but at the same time, it was just like a personal thing. And my neck was still always really puffy and had these lines. I still have the lines, they're there, but they're not nearly as prominent as they used to be, which I'm just like shocked by. I had no idea that they were probably related. The inflammation used to make it hard to sing, to talk, to swallow, all these things, and now I have not had that at all since the surgery. It's been great. Since the surgery, meaning after the inflammation of the surgery itself went down, because there's going to be plenty of surgery inflammation just because they have to do a lot around here. So the recovery process, yeah, I was swelled up for a couple months, probably 2-3 months, and I just kind of ignored it. It was fine. It was normal swelling. Some obvious negatives that I had was that I have had a series of other MRIs after my surgery because I had abnormal uptake from my radioactive iodine scan, meaning when I went in, I took the radioactive iodine treatment / pill, and when they were doing the scan to see where my body had picked up the radiation, I did have spots outside of my thyroid bed where it was found. So ultimately, they ended up putting me into multiple MRIs. I had to go multiple times. I couldn't get it all done in one shot, unfortunately. And they checked my chest, my liver, all that. And that was scary. That was really, really scary. I was super bummed when they said they found things, and I remember crying and being just exhausted from this whole process and just thinking, why is it that I can't have a clear scan? Because a lot of the people that I had seen on YouTube and read about, they ultimately had a clean scan, and I was like feeling really upset. That being said, just because I had a scan that showed some uptake didn't really end up meaning anything too serious. I don't need another surgery as of right now. I don't need another round of ablation. So we're just kind of watching everything at the moment, making sure everything goes well. It's been wild and I'm very tired, both emotionally and physically, from that whole process. That also is a great segue into extreme fatigue. I have never felt this kind of tired in my life. It'll hit me really hard at like 2 p.m, and it's like a freight train. I cannot stop being tired. There's nothing I can do to make myself feel better. No amount of coffee, nothing. It's like my brain turns off and it becomes really slow. Like my thought process becomes slowed down. Like I'm thinking through molasses. So like everything becomes very hard for me to focus. My eyes don't really focus and it gets harder to see. And I've talked to some other people about this and they've had this same experience as well. So don't be scared if this happens to you. It scared me the first time because it was like really aggressive and it took a few hours before I started feeling better again. I also unfortunately have transient nausea as well. So it'll come really, really suddenly for about 10 minutes throughout the day. I don't end up getting sick, but it's just like a really interruptive, intense nausea. And that's been going on for about 6 months since the surgery. It's gotten better as my thyroid levels have equalized, but it's still something that really, really interrupts my day. The next thing is I did end up getting damage to my cranial nerve 11, so I can't move my arm up and down, which is frustrating, but it's not the end of the world. It doesn't like hurt. I don't have any active pain or anything. But I did end up accidentally overusing my functional shoulder and getting a bit of a tug on my rotator cuff. So basically both of my shoulders are out of commission at the moment. So like trying to lift things is impossible, but just be aware that you might need physical therapy after this surgery, and I highly recommend you doing it. I have been doing a lot of exercises to make sure that I am building up as much of my musculature back. Try your best to stay on top of everything and think about what your body's telling you and pay attention to that and really try and respond. The last thing that I've really noticed, and this is hard for me to say whether or not it actually is a result of losing my thyroid or if it's just a part of who I am, but I really struggle to sleep through the night. And I think there's actually a large chunk of that, which is anxiety, just stress about the whole process and being unable to turn my brain off after thinking about, you know, work, life, cancer, X, Y, and Z. So like doing all this has been really hard for me to sleep through. And I think that that's something that a lot of people don't mention, is just like the fear of everything doesn't go away after you're done with the surgery and the treatments. Like you still feel really anxious and uncomfortable. And I want to say that like you're not the only one who feels that way. I absolutely do. It takes up a lot of like my bandwidth, my brain's bandwidth. And I think that that's something that is really important to recognize and be okay with, is that like this is something that you're going to feel for a long time, if not forever, because I worry that that might be something I probably am always going to be thinking about, right? Every time I go to the doctor and get a blood test or a scan, I'm worried that I'm going to get bad news. And anytime I have a little bit too much time for myself, I start thinking about it. I'm thinking about mortality. I'm thinking about what the treatments would be like if I get it again. I'm thinking about having to go through radiation again and be isolated. I'm thinking about the surgery and the recovery time and the possibility of losing my voice once again. And, you know, I feel like I think about all these things all the time, and it makes it really hard for me to relax and enjoy aspects of my life, despite the fact that I'm largely feeling quite well. So, you know, in an effort to try and mitigate that, I am trying to reach out to friends and family, see a therapist, and work through these feelings so that they don't end up overtaking everything in my life, which I strongly encourage everybody to do if they have the means to do so, because it's definitely been really hard for me to keep my mind focused on the now, because I'm always thinking a little bit about the future. Overarchingly, I feel really well. I'm very happy and honestly surprised at how well I feel. That being said, you sometimes do just feel down. And I think that that's okay, but I don't want any people who are watching my videos and preparing for their own process to feel alone. Cancer is chronic, you know. I'm going to be taking medication every single day for the rest of my life, for however long I live. I'm also going to be at higher risk of things like breast cancer and recurrence of thyroid cancer and stomach cancer and salivary cancer and things like that. So I have to just be very vigilant and go to my doctor and communicate and pay attention to what my body is saying and be my best advocate. I found that that's really helpful. It's allowed me to take responsibility for my health care. And I'm not a doctor, so I don't know all the answers, which is why I have to constantly be prodding my doctors. I'm the one who lives in my body. I'm the one who feels all these things. So I try my best to note things that are happening and just pay attention, stay on top of the recommended scans for preventative care. Things like that are really helpful, and they help to alleviate some of my anxiety. I also really recommend that people read. Try and read studies about it, watch YouTube videos, read blogs. All that kind of stuff is going to help give you a better picture of what it might look like for you. Everybody's different. Everybody goes through this process very differently. Everybody has different side effects and symptoms, and my videos are by no means all-encompassing, right? They're just my personal experience, but at the end of the day, it does make me feel better to reach out to other people with this condition and compare, right? And learn more about how this cancer affects the body and the psyche and all these things. It's wild, man. I really hope that everybody who's going through this is positive and making sure that they're communicating with their doctors and consuming as much literature about this disease as they can, asking questions. All this stuff is really good. I will be doing another follow-up video about this subject in about 6 months, if nothing happens from now until then. But ultimately, I really want to focus on getting my voice back up to snuff, making more content about that. But if you have any questions, you can feel free to ask them of me, and I'm going to try my best to always answer everybody as quickly as possible. But yeah, for everybody who is going through this, you'll be okay. And if you need some support, feel free to reach out. And for those of you guys who are just watching this video because you're a fan of mine, thank you. And I really appreciate everybody who's helped make this process so much more comfortable for me just by being great support systems. I am just so endlessly thankful for everyone, and I have had a wild year, but I'm looking forward to doing more fun stuff and not cancer stuff in 2023. So yeah, if you need anything from me, feel free to reach out. But otherwise, as always, keep on singing, everybody.